Hello, everyone, and welcome to our Sustainable Activism webinar. My name is Lisa Levinson, and I'm the director of the Sustainable Activism campaign for In Defense of Animals. And what we do is we offer emotional and spiritual resources for animal activists. And today we're super excited to have Rae Sikora with us as our guest. You can see her if you're online. She's in the webcam there, and I'll do a little introduction of her in a moment. So today our topic will be real life activist challenges, and we actually received some feedback from folks who sent in their questions in advance, so we'll start with those. We'll do a little interview with Rae with those questions, and then we also will really appreciate more feedback from you in the chat box, and even if you'd like to join us on the phone by asking questions and just sharing real life activist situations, challenges that you face every day, or ones that were particularly just ones that you would like feedback for. And so Rae's our expert on those topics. She's done international speaking, and I'll get into that in a moment, and also conflict resolution. So we're really fortunate to have her with us today. I'll make a couple of little announcements. We do, next week, we'll have a vegan spirituality online gathering, and we hope you can join us for that at the same time. We will be delighted to have you if you can. We create community every once a month as part of our online vegan spirituality group. So today, I'll go ahead and do our official reading of the bio for Rae. I must say, Rae is a dear friend of mine, so I'm really thrilled that she's here. Rae has been a full-time spokesperson for other species and the environment for over 35 years. She's the co-founder of Plant Peace Daily, Veg Fund, and the Institute for Humane Education. Rae leads compassionate living and ethical consumerism programs internationally for diverse audiences ranging from schools and prisons to businesses and universities. And one of the things that Rae specializes in is answering questions from activists. So I thought this would be a perfect opportunity to have her on board to be able to respond to our questions directly. So Rae, thank you so much for joining us.
Oh, I'm so happy to be here with everyone. It's great.
Yeah, we're really lucky. So I'm going to get started with a couple of these questions, and then, as I mentioned, we'll bring other folks on board. We're so happy to have all of you with us today. Okay, so the first question that I would like to ask is, it's related to how we talk to others about, in this case, our veganism, or it could be about our activism. So I'm going to read through this. This is submitted by one of our viewers. So she says she's cautious when talking to family members about her veganism. She's been ridiculed and gotten hostile remarks with no provocation on her part. And she really wants to describe the plight of the animals. So that's part one of that question. And part two is that two of her nieces recently gave birth. Congratulations. And they're in love with their babies, and she really wanted to talk to them about the love of the mother cow, the goat, and the pig that they have for their babies, but she hesitates. She doesn't want to alienate them, but it also seems like a good opportunity. So the question is, how do we speak to others in our family about our choices, our ethical choices, and then when do we go for those teachable moments, and when do we not do that?
So I am guessing from every time that I've done a workshop on activist and vegan situations or on communication, I'm guessing that everyone who's involved in this probably has the same experience as most groups that I work with. When I ask, where is the number one challenge? Is it family, coworkers, friends, strangers? The number one is generally family. And it's very, very charged for us, and it relates to our expectations. Like, we have higher expectations of our families, understanding who we are at our core, acting on what they know. Our expectations of family go far beyond what it would be if it was just coworker, stranger. just anyone else. Family is very, very charged. And so I think that that's the first thing to really be aware of, is that, how we have to really think about, like, what's my intention here? Is my intention to change my family? Is it to change this other person? Because if that's the intention, it's futile. It will lead to nothing but frustration. If we trying to change anyone, that's true. But trying to change family, you will have double the frustration of trying to change anyone else. So I think it's a really, like, I would love for everyone to leave this webinar with a few tools that just make this a little bit easier, that make life a little bit easier when you've chosen this compassion path. And when you've chosen a path that, really, what our families probably think is we're on a quirky diet. My family doesn't think it anymore. But the reality is we're not on some diet. We have chosen to be part of a very powerful social change movement. And once we've opened our eyes and our hearts and our minds to what's going on, we can't turn back. So it's especially painful when our families don't understand that this is what's at our core. This is, like, for us, a spiritual choice. It's a life path choice. It's powerful. And I think that one of the most important things we can do to not live frustrated when we're, like, trying to live in the world as someone who's chosen a path that's very different than what the current mainstream thinking is right now and feeling is right now, is this tool, which I use a lot. I stop myself before responding to anything, and I ask myself, is my intention here to be understood or to understand? And if my intention is this person or these people should understand me, that's challenging. That's frustrating. You're going to go through life very, very frustrated if you're hoping that everyone will understand you, because they haven't had your experiences. It's sort of like, we meet someone, and in 5 minutes, I want you to get what took me 60 years of all my different experiences and what I read, who I bumped into. It was my experiences for 60 years that brought me to this point in my path. So in 5 minutes with you, or even in a few years with you, you haven't had the same experiences as me. So I can't expect you to get it the same way that I get it. The pace of everyone's path is different. Where each person's path goes is different. And it's very hard in family to not take it personally, to take it as a personal affront. So that, for me, that is the number one tool, is that rather than trying to have them understand us, try to understand them. Whenever possible, just ask questions. I mean, family is, it's so tricky. It sounded like, I can't remember exactly what you just read, but there was, it sounds like this person is getting teased, is getting provoked. And that's very hard. Even when people joke, when they make the jokes, I saw this really beautiful, it was like a cartoon, and I can't remember what was actually in the cartoon, but I loved what it said. You're vegan when even the jokes break your heart. And, I think that this is true. Like, the jokes come at us and people think it's very funny, but this is our life. This is what we've chosen to do for our lives. So I have a pretty standard thing that I say when someone does this, like, unprovoked harassment, teasing, jokes, whatever it is. And what I will say is, when they say it to me, I say, what would make you say that to me? So once again, asking them a question. And sometimes I'll say even more. I'll say, what would make you say something to me that hurts? What's going on that you would say that to me? So again, it's this, like, trying to understand them rather than trying to be understood. I want you to know that hurts me, and I've been working in this, and blah, blah, blah. It's like, it doesn't work. When you do that, they just think you're nuts. So instead, they get to inquire a little bit. And I have never asked someone that they didn't stop in their tracks and really examine, wow, what would make me say that to you? And they almost always apologize. It's a real game changer. It really shifts things when you turn it around that way. So, I think even like with my own family, things have changed a lot. When I first was vegan, well, that's 40 years ago now for me, 40 years vegan. And it was really hellish in my family. They didn't accept it. My brother was really upset, and he wanted me to have a psychological intervention with the family because I had gone too far. I was crazy. Basically, he thought I was crazy. So it's gone from that to now we have more vegans in the family than non-vegans. But it wasn't from me pushing and saying, be on my path. It was from me being true to myself. I just stayed true to myself. And occasionally it means that there is, you disappoint people. It's hardest to disappoint our family. And in this work, you really have to be willing to disappoint people, because when you stay true to yourself, it's not going to make everybody jump for joy around you. They're not going to be happy with those decisions all the time. I remember, I don't know, it must have been like 2 Thanksgivings ago or something. And my father called and he said, I heard you're not coming to Thanksgiving. And I said, no, we're not going to do that. And he said, why do you care more about your animal rights than you do about family? And I said, well, I could ask you, why do you care more about your taste buds than family? Because that's what's going on. You care more about your taste buds and having your old familiar than you do about family. I'd much rather be someone who sticks to my values than someone who chooses their taste buds over their family. And he got it. And it wasn't easy for him. But I think that we have to remember that we're often made to be the ones who are causing the rift or not choosing family. But the reality is, it would be very easy for our families to recreate tradition and to include us. And, that Thanksgiving, there were 6 of us who didn't come because there was going to be one of our friends dead in the middle of the table, and we chose not to sit there. And, he got it. And he said, but it's just a turkey. I said, for me, it's the same as if you took my dog and you roasted my dog and you put the dog in the middle of the table. And he got it. So the dialogue is definitely more challenging with family, but I think it's really important. Just remember your intention. Remember to not take things personally. It's not personal. It's often it's fear on their part. It's unfamiliar. This is unfamiliar territory for a lot of people. And to remain loving and keep your intention to understand them, rather than that they should suddenly have some big revelation and understand you totally, because it's unrealistic.
Thank you, Rae. That's very insightful. I don't know if anyone else has had this experience of having family tell them, well, the world doesn't revolve around you. We have to make all of our changes around you. And that's just a little sidebar to that situation, which can get a little tricky because, wondering if you had any thoughts about that little sidebar.
For me, if I had thoughts about it?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think, when you stay true to yourself, people might see it as that you think, oh, the world revolves around you. Oh, we have to make our choices because of you. And it's very similar. I talked about this in a workshop in South Carolina last week. It's very, very similar to when people are alcoholics or they drink. If you don't drink, people are like, whoa, wait a minute. They feel judged because you're choosing to not do whatever it is that they're choosing to do. So, I had this quirky little job for a while. I was giving tours of the St. Croix River and the Mississippi on this boat. And it was like this little cruise people would do. And I was the naturalist who would tell them about the river. People didn't really want to hear about the river. What they wanted to do was come and drink on the boat. They wanted to party. And so they'd arrive with all their bottles of alcohol, and they would ask me if I wanted a drink, and I'd just say no, thank you. And I'd end up reading up on the top deck all the time, like, and get paid for it. But very few people wanted to hear the natural history of the river. And I didn't take it personally. It's okay. They wanted to party. But one of the times, all the people who were on the boat came up to the top deck. They said, "We need to talk to you." I said, "What's going on?" And they said, "Are you a non-drinker?" And I said, "Yes." And they said, "Well, we just want you to know we're not alcoholics. You know, we don't always drink like this. We're just having a cruise. And so we're really having a good time. But we don't want you to judge us. Are you judging us?" Like, you know, this is how people get. And they'll get like this around animal products too. You know, this assumption that because I'm making a personal choice to do something, it's a reflection on them. You know, so I let these people know I have no problem with you drinking, and just go have a good time. It's really not related to you at all. You know, it's just my choice in life. And it's the same, you know, with our choice to not consume animal products or to be on the path that we're on, the vegan path that we're on. It can make people uncomfortable. Like, ooh, it's kind of like saying they're wrong. And especially family is very charged about that.
Yeah, I really appreciate your perspective on that, Rae. I think that's it's a deep issue for many of us, because the family, like you said, they haven't had all the experiences that we have and haven't been able to come to the choice on their own.
Yeah, exactly. You know, and I also think, I don't know, like family is, I think you have your chosen family and you have your birth family. And it's very, very important to not get too caught up in the birth family thing. They are great teachers for us in being loving and compassionate to everyone. I really think our families are our best teachers. But I think that it's a little destructive when we think this is our only family, is our blood family. You know, so I have really strong chosen family and community, and that makes you a little, if you have that, if you have a strong chosen family and community, you're a little less invested in how your birth family reacts to everything. You know, you can be there, you can be like, yep, I'm with this family now, but good thing I got that other family. You know, it's a really good thing to have. It just kind of keeps life balanced and, yeah, just a little more sane.
Yeah, thank you, Rae. And I really hope that that's part of what we're doing together is being able to be some of that extended family for each other as fellow activists. So
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, so maybe we'll ask another one of the questions. And so one of the folks says that when she goes to work with certain groups, after addressing their issues, when she brings up her own issues, she feels as though they're marginalized. So perhaps she's an activist in different types of activism, maybe environmental or maybe with human rights. And then when she, talks about her own needs, her own issues, those are marginalized.
I think it's, in those situations, like in all situations, it's really important to ask ourselves, what do I want in this? What's my intention? What do I want? What do I need from these people? And honestly, if you're just true to yourself, being marginalized or feeling like you're not heard, it ends up being a gift in a very difficult package. It's very difficult, but it's a great gift because that's the world. That is the world we live in. And sometimes it's harder. Like, I'm not sure if this person is talking about, like, she's working with other activists or other vegans in this group. I don't know what the group is really that she's talking about. But it can be especially painful if we make an assumption that because everyone else is vegan or an activist, or we think they're all on the same page with us, that they are going to accept everything about us, that they're going to give this welcome mat to our ideas and to our issues and what we bring up. It's unlikely that that's going to happen all the time. It is really unlikely. And I think I just do really think it's a gift for not taking things personally. Okay, people aren't interested in this thing that I'm really passionate about, so be it. I'm still passionate about it. So I don't know what that exact situation is. You know, if it's like I could imagine it in our vegan group here. You know, we have some folks who, we try to stay really focused on what we're doing. And then we have people who bring up their own issues about what they're passionate about. And we can only do so much. You know, we have 3 organizers. We can only do so much. And so when people bring that up, maybe they feel marginalized, because what I usually end up saying is, I hear how passionate you are about that, and I think you should pursue it. You should organize this and move it forward. We don't have the time to do it. But I could imagine some of them probably feel marginalized or not heard. Like, why isn't this a priority to you too? They probably think this, but you can only have so many priorities. You know, we're just like, we're just a bunch of humans, you know, and with only so much time. So I just think, you know, it's important to stay very true to ourselves and very focused on our path of compassion and what we're passionate about. You know, just stay very true to it, no matter what comes at you. And if stuff comes at you that makes you feel like, oh, wait a minute, you know, I'm not being respected here, I'm not being heard here, so be it. Doesn't matter. You know, stay true to it. It's a really good training in being strong.
I like that connection of passion and compassion, the two together. Well, another question is just in some of the groups, what if you find that there's bigotry within the groups against other groups? I mean, how do you handle that?
Does this person give an example at all of what?
No example.
Huh. I've never experienced that. I don't know if other folks have experienced that. Yeah, I just have never experienced that. Generally, you know, like I think of this as one of the most powerful and very current social change movements. It's like what we're on the crest of. And in my experience has been that in this social change movement, people are very aware of the other issues, you know, the other groups, and I don't, you know, I have never seen that. I haven't seen racism or people being against LGBT in our group or anything like that. We have such a mix. And I have never experienced that bigotry in it. I don't know if other folks have.
Well, actually, we did a webinar a while back about some of those issues within the animal rights movement. So they probably exist in the larger movement, maybe not in your particular group. But one way to rephrase this, and one of our Christine, who's on the chat box, she mentioned really looking at that is, what if it was between abolitionists and like within the animal rights movement, you even might find that sort of thing.
There's a lot of that. Okay, now we're on to it. You know, we have that. I mean, right now, pretty much every animal rights group has that. Every vegan group has that, where there are people who, some of them are maybe new to the animal rights movement, and they come in all wide-eyed and think that it's going to be this very loving community, and then they come in and they go, oh, okay, there's an internal war going on. And one of the biggest internal divides going on currently is between the abolitionists and what are called the welfarists. And oh, there's that kitty. Hey, Chico. You know, it's I think that it's really, that one's really tough. What it usually does is divide the groups into 2 groups, you know, to do very separate groups. You know, some are working on more welfare issues, some are working on more abolition issues. And the reality is that every social change movement has had this, has had a divide like this. It has had, you know, I mean, the African-American slaves in this country, that abolitionist movement was a mess. You know, you had the absolute abolitionists. That's quite the kitty view. The absolute abolitionists who are like, there should not be slavery, people shouldn't be owned. And then you had the other folks who were like, oh, let's just make conditions better for the slaves. So every movement has had it. And they have kind of served each other in a way. Like, you know, the folks who are abolitionists make the welfare people look very moderate. You know, so it's, yeah, I think that it's, oh, wait, I'm going to read this little. Any way to butter this?
To buffer?
Oh, buffer this. Sorry, I don't have my glasses on. Buffer this in the eyes of the people we are trying to influence, non-vegans who see the infighting and write us off as nuts. I don't know if there is a way to buffer it, really. I personally, you know, I know exactly where I stand in terms of these issues, and I don't get involved in the infighting. I stay very clear and on my path and true to it. And, well, there might be people who think I'm nuts who haven't talked to me about it. But for the most part, people will hear me. But I don't know that there's a way to buffer it. This movement also comes with, and Lisa, you've experienced this, I'm sure. It comes with a lot of egos. And maybe any human endeavor comes with a ton of egos, and you know, the people who run the organizations with their big egos, and you know, it comes with the egos. And you know, I think it also comes with this one in particular. Often people who have not really fit in a lot of human arenas get involved in animal rights because they can relate more to other species more than they can relate to humans. So a lot of them don't have great social skills. You know, every group, we just have these like really, how shall I put it, who these people are who come in. We have people who are more challenging sometimes because they don't have the skills to really deal people to people. And, you know, we welcome them in. Some of them I have to be kind of strong with in our group and in the different groups that I've been in, you know, and you have to have real clear boundaries. But I think we attract in this movement a lot of colorful characters who maybe haven't fit in with humans in their life very well, and they can relate to other species in a big way.
Mm-hmm. And we're so lucky to have all these people involved, because I think that empathy with non-human beings is key to who we are as a community. So I think that also
sure.
that we want to have a lot of compassion even within our groups, and a lot of acceptance of each other's point of views if they're slightly different. And
you know,
maybe even, oh, I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, you go ahead. You go ahead.
You know, I think it's good to have, when people have their differences of opinions in the groups, really to think about what is our common ground here. What's our common ground?
Yeah.
We want to help the animals. How can
Absolutely.
we put that aside, whatever it is, to focus on the common ground? And sometimes getting stuck in what is the definition of this can even take us off track of the purpose of why we're together.
Absolutely. And I'm just like, you know, I'm looking, Christine, at your comment here, you know, about writing us off as nuts. And from my experience, the people who go that direction, the people who would like to write us off as nuts, are often the people who are just looking for something to not have to respond to the validity in this movement. And so you can say, oh, everybody's nuts in that movement. And, you know, and the same was said for the women's rights movement and all kinds of social change movements. Oh, this is a bunch of nutcases. And, you know, the reality is that's part of speaking up in a way that society isn't familiar with, that we're going to be seen as nuts even if we're saying the most sane thing in the world. You know, we have some of the most brilliant people in this movement, and some of the most sane and loving. And, It's very easy to write them off as nuts if I don't want to have to act on my most compassionate core. That's, so I just want to say that's often what people are doing.
And I've read, actually, there's a couple of great articles in the Huffington Post. Somebody shared them that were about vegan bullying. And I think that's also something to think about, or activist bullying, whatever the case may be. But we're looking at what is it when you make fun of being vegan, or making fun of people with their different views. What does that mean? Who are we really? Who's really suffering from that?
Right.
And what do we represent as activists? We represent kindness and compassion to all living beings, and so trying to come back to that is important as well.
Yeah, and I'm looking at what you wrote here, Christine. I don't care if people think I'm a nutcase, just not the cause I'm fighting for. So you don't want them to see it as a crazy cause. You don't care if personally they think you're a nut. I only care how it affects our effectiveness. And our effectiveness, I feel like our number one tool that we have is compassion on every level. And so if we can be a movement, and we can't control everybody in this movement, we just can't. You can't control other humans, you can't control everybody in this movement. But as individuals, we can really make an effort that instead of going out into the world fighting, we are going to be an invitation. We're going to be this irresistible invitation to a compassionate world, a compassionate community, and to keep that in mind and keep that in our hearts as we go out into the world. And that kind of compassion and that kind of love that invites people in, rarely do they then go, oh man, that's a really crazy movement. Usually they'll feel like, oh, this is a community that really cares about me, cares about other species. So it's not always easy. Like every group has at least one extremely challenging personality in that group. I mean, anytime you have more than one human, it's challenging. But, every group in every region I've been in, I have been all over the world doing this work. And every group, when I've been with like different animal rights groups, vegan groups, everyone is like, oh, that's our challenging person. And I say, oh, perfect. I'll sit with that person at dinner, or, like that's the one I want to be with, because that's the one who really teaches me to be extremely compassionate. If it's somebody like you, Lisa, or probably a lot of the people who are on this call, it's like easy. You're sorry, but you're not a great teacher for me trying to be compassionate, because it's easy, but you bring in the more difficult people who come into the groups, and they're great. They're great for really testing how compassionate am I really. And when somebody is very, very different from me, when somebody has a different way of speaking, a different way of looking at the world, whatever it is, something that rubs me the wrong way, ooh, that's my perfect teacher. I want them. I want them near me. And we can all do this. Just we can choose that compassion and go into these areas, where people may be challenging us, and we'll grow from it. It's great.
Wow, you have such a positive attitude, Rae, about this. I like that ability that you have to be able to flip something around if something seems like a challenge, to really look at it as an invitation. And that's that moment of awareness when we realize this is happening. Like, here I am in this situation with the person who I'm not agreeing with. How do I personally make that choice to see things differently, so that my interactions become more compassionate?
Yeah, I was walking the dogs, and it was like this aha moment. I'm 60. Really, I still have these like big aha moments. Like, whoa, for 60 years I've been doing it wrong. I could have been doing this. But I was walking my dogs in the river here, and my sister called, and she was like, "Row!" She was so angry because our mother ordered. Do you know what Omaha steaks are? They're these frozen they're frozen steaks, and you send them as a gift to people. They arrive frozen at their house, so they're cow parts, and they freeze the cow parts and then they send them. And it's called Omaha steaks. She said, Mom sent Omaha steaks to my son, and she was so upset. And I was laughing and laughing. And she said, how are you not upset? And I said, because she's being herself. I don't expect her to be someone else. This is who she is. And my sister said, wait a minute, is this how you're so patient with people in our family? You just don't expect them to be who they're not. And I said, exactly. Of course that's why, so I'm not sad or angry or anything. Oh, that person's just being normal. That's how they are. And then I hung up with her and I thought, wait, I can do this with my mother. I can do it with a lot of people, but I don't do it with humans in general. I have an expectation that humans will be different than how they are. I have a preference that they will be different than how humans are, and it causes me incredible suffering. So here I am, like I'm standing in the river, and I was like, holy crap. I could be thinking about all humans like I think of my mother. She's just being herself. Let her be herself. To want her to be anything other than what she is. And it doesn't mean to not speak up for other species or the environment or whatever. You still stay true to speaking up for what you believe in, but stop expecting people to be who they're not. Because, wow, that's so much suffering from that. And it was this big aha for me. Now I'm like looking at everyone in the world as my mother or anybody who I care about and saying, oh, they're just being themselves. Okay, so I have so much less suffering now about it. Like I don't have that, like, why are they doing this? How we get, like, how could someone do that? How could they do it? They're being a normal human. Humans do this. This is what they do. And it's just changed. It's been a total game changer for me. Just change that expectation and be true to the compassionate message without going crazy that the world hasn't accepted it yet and that humans aren't being totally different than how they are.
Wow. That's an important one, I think, because I see often on Facebook and other places where people write, oh, how can someone do this? How can anyone do this? And that does take out that level of angst. It doesn't mean we don't still fight for that behavior to change. But the angst, being able to let go of the personal angst that we feel because the world isn't maybe the way that we would like it to be at this moment.
Absolutely. So I see Kristen's here. And I'm going to read yours, Kristen. I always forget that I can't just talk to this person. I was going to say, oh, Kristen, can I read yours? But I'm going to read it, if that's okay, Lisa. It says, I always want to challenge people to do better. There's no such thing as normal. I get what you're saying about individual people and their usual, but I don't give people a free pass across the board. I get that. I totally get it. And there is this place where we can both be very clear about injustices and what we're working for, and not make ourselves crazy because things aren't, or people aren't where we want them to be. Because I'm sure you've seen it, like the people who are depressed or angry or completely burned out because they've worked so many years in this movement and they still look around and see suffering. And they can't bear it. They cannot bear it. And a lot of people leave the movement because of it. They stop being activists. And it's very sad. And I think a lot of that is our expectations. It's... I don't have any religion. I don't follow anything like that. I would say I have a spiritual path, but there's a Buddhist idea that all suffering comes from preference, from having these preferences. I want things to be this way, not this way. I wish that hadn't happened. I wish this would happen. The craving and the aversion to things as they are. And if you can accept that the world is what it is and still show up as this like beacon of compassion, you will be more effective. It's just absolutely the way it is. Instead of, like, I don't want you to be how you are. It just doesn't work. It doesn't work, and it makes us a very angry community. And I'm not saying that I don't cry sometimes when something's just very overwhelming to witness, that I don't get angry sometimes. And then, boom, I meditate or I just stop and I just go, okay, what is going on inside me that I'm having this kind of reaction? And how can I get back to that most loving place? Because that is the most powerful thing we can be. That is why we're in this movement, is that we love. We have compassion and we love. And that's our greatest strength. And so that's what we take out into the world. And it's not to say that we give the stamp of approval to the kind of violence that we witness. Or, I work in the Middle East, and I'm trying not to work there as much, so I haven't gone for over a year. It's been great to go, actually. But it's very, very challenging. I work with men and women, teachers and principals in the Middle East, and many of the men were raised as boys and taught the more violent that they are toward animals, the meaner that they are to the women in the family, the more they get their father's approval. So they grew up with this as little boys. Then I'm working with them as adult men. And people often say to me, how can you work with these people? These are some of the most violent people in the world. And it's true. They are some of the most violent people in the world. But they were taught from such a young age that that's a good thing. That's the way to be a good person. And so then my job is to teach them that compassion is strength and compassion is power, and how to widen that circle of compassion. But, I'm not condoning their violence. I'm inviting them to the possibility of another way. And yeah, so I don't hate them. I can see them as little boys. I work with the kids too. I see them as the little boys, who were given approval if they were mean to their mom and their sisters, and if during the week of sacrifice they would cut a lot of goats' throats as 5- and 6-year-old boys. So it's really important to understand that everybody wakes up. I think everybody. Anyway, you can let me know in the chat box if it's not everybody, but I think everybody wakes up in the morning and thinks, oh, I'm going to do what I think is the best thing to do today. And that often means they're going to be the best person that they have the tools to be. And not everybody has the same tools. And so we have to work with that and invite them into a possibility that we can be a loving human community.
And that also self-reflection is a part of that too, looking at ourselves.
Big, really big. There was do you know the film The Witness by Tribe of Heart? Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Okay, so I don't know if folks who are on the call with us know this. It's a very powerful film by Tribe of Heart, but it has tough scenes in it. It has scenes with anal electrocution of fur-bearing animals who will be used in the fur industry, and they don't want to harm their fur, so they do this. And I showed that film at a conference where I was leading it with someone else, and one woman was so angry afterwards. She was so angry. And people were crying, but this woman screamed, I want to do to him what he did to that animal. I want to anally electrocute him. And I said, you're extremely angry. She said, I am. I said, I get that. And I understand being angry about this. So what's important to know is that you want this man to act on something that isn't really in his awareness. So then I asked her a question. I said, do you act on everything you know? And she said, yes, I absolutely do. I said, you do? I said, okay, you're the first person I ever met who acts on everything they know. And this relates to you saying working on ourselves, and I said, so you say you absolutely act on everything you know. So do you know about sweatshop labor? She said, I do. I said, do you know a lot about it? She said, I do. And I said, great. I said, so you make sure you never support any product or industry that is part of sweatshop labor? And then she just kind of looked up at me. She said, no, I don't. I said, okay, then you're just with the rest of us. You don't always act on what you know. This person who you're so angry at, you want him to act on what he doesn't know. He doesn't know that. He has no connection to that animal. He just thinks, inanimate object, this is my job. So you know how difficult it is to act on what you know. And we all know it. Everybody who's on this call, well, if there is someone who's 100% consistent and always acts on what they know, then I want to know, like, type it in the chat and I'll try not to miss it because that'll be pretty amazing. I haven't met that person. I just haven't. You know, there's just that occasional time when it's like, you know I shouldn't purchase this beverage in this container, but God, I just want it. I just want it. You know, this not recyclable container or whatever it is. Something that contributes to, you know, petroleum or whatever it is. You know, we all are imperfect, doing our best. And then, so we get to do that. We get to look at ourselves and go, oh, how can I increase in my consistency what I know and how I am in the world, what my choices are. So that's, I think, our most powerful thing, to act on that and to work on ourselves.
Thanks, Rae, for responding to that so eloquently. I'd like to connect some of the things in the chat box with some of the questions that we have as well.
I know I'm trying to keep up with the chat box, but I'm doing eye contact with you, Lisa, so it's like a weird.
Oh, that's okay. I'll help you with that. That's what I'm here for. I'll check into the chat box. And one of the things is, I know there was a person in the chat box mentioned how frustrating it is to, let's see, let me get the exact right thing, how frustrating it is when she's bearing witness at the slaughterhouse, that she loses patience for people who say things like, I love my bacon. And I'd like to combine that with one of the questions that we have, which is also, what do you do if you're volunteering for the local SPCA and they want volunteers to table at the local bacon fest, to help it? You're there to help the animals, but the event is actually at something called a bacon fest. So I noticed the two words bacon were in both of those, but I think the concept is kind of similar. Like, how do we continue to work for the animals when we're faced with these frustrations in the midst of what we're doing?
I think this is two-part. One thing that I want to say is that this is changing, and it's changing quickly. And I saw one of those questions come in about that inconsistency in the sanctuaries and some of the rescue groups. And so I put on the Facebook page, I put a link to an article about how more and more shelters are choosing to have events that are consistent with being spokespeople for all beings, not just cats, dogs, and rabbits, whoever else they are. So that's one really important aspect to look at, is that it is changing, and that's a very positive thing. I mean, soon there's no way that they'll be able to do this sort of inconsistent thing. And the other part is looking at, as an individual, where is your volunteer time going? Where are you putting your efforts? If you don't feel 100% joy, this is what I want to be doing, shift it. Don't do it. Like, if our local shelter wanted me to volunteer at a bacon fest or whatever it is, I'd say, sorry, you got to find another volunteer for that, because we have a limited amount of time, energy, and I think that it's important to put it into what we feel completely, solidly good about doing. And if you don't belong there. You know, it's not the place you belong in. You know, JC, my partner, and I were two of the founders. We were co-founders of Veg Fund, along with Zia Terhune. And we would be asked, and some of you know about what Veg Fund is. You fund these different events where people are reaching out to sample vegan food at non-vegan events and to a non-vegan crowd. And we would get these requests. And in the beginning of starting the group, I was in charge of approving or not approving these. And I got one from, I won't say which shelter it was. It's a huge shelter, one of the biggest in the US for cats and dogs. And they said they wanted funding for this big event they were having, and they were serving pepperoni pizza and all these animal products were being served at it. And I said, no, I'm sorry, we can't fund that, but please contact us again when your shelter has gotten to the point where you're representing all animals. We would love to help you. And then she called me. She was angry, and she said, our donors will not support us if we start having vegan events. And I just said, I think you'd be surprised. And I hope that we hear from you again when you're doing that, when you're being consistent in your compassion for all species. We would love to support you. And a year later, she said, you were right. You were right. We're applying. We have all vegan events now. And we're not going to ever serve animal products again. It didn't make sense. And our donors aren't upset about it. And I said, that's good. And I think that it's amazing to watch what's happening with it. I mean, before I was a little shocked that it wasn't so obvious to people, like, really, you don't want to have a lobster boil if you have a shelter for cats and dogs or whatever it is. Mm-hmm. I was shocked by that. And now I'm a little bit shocked that all these shelters are starting to shift. And I love that. It's just great.
Yeah, it is. It's fabulous. And one of the things I'll mention that was included in the chat box is this program called Food for Thought that was started, I think, annually. Yeah. They offer resources for people who are trying to approach their local groups and encourage them to have cruelty-free meals at their events, to really look at the connection between what they're serving and what they're trying to do in the world.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's so great. So, Kristen, I see yours, that you're getting flack from people because you're trying to start a vegan rescue, and there's a lot of prejudice against that. It's okay. That is, if that is for you, what you feel like you have the energy to do, the passion to do, and the skills to do it. People are going to give you flack for whatever you do. Mm-hmm. And I think I've learned it just from being in this movement for so many years. When I became vegetarian, I didn't know the word vegetarian. When I went vegan 40 years ago, I didn't know the word vegan. I didn't know those words. I didn't know there were other people doing it. And boy, did I get some flack. A lot. Now I get a lot of apologies from the people who gave me flack, because now it's normalized, so it's not easy to be the person who's like on the front lines. You're being true to yourself, and you're not getting the people aren't blowing wind under your wings to do it all the time. They're just like, what the hell are you doing? And you just stay true to yourself. I think it's really powerful.
That seems like a theme of today's conversation, for sure, is just staying true to yourself.
Yeah.
Kind of looking within and doing what you feel is right. So I know that I'd like to open up the lines to see if anyone on the phone, we're having such a great conversation with the chat box here, but I'd like to involve people who are on the phone as well, if you'd like to join us. So I'm going to open up the phones if anybody would like to ask a question there. So you'll hear an announcement in one moment.
Oh, Victor, I see your message there, Victor Flores. I love that.
All attendees are muted and may unmute themselves by pressing *6.
So if you are joining us on the phone, you're welcome to press *6 and ask a question to Rae directly. And for those people who are on the computer, you can also unmute yourself by clicking on the microphone and then ask a question as well.
See if we have anyone. Can I say something while we're waiting for someone to come in?
Yes, sure. Please do.
Okay, so Kristen, I think it's great that you're doing what you're doing, and I see people are like giving you shit for having vegan cats or, whatever it is. But, that just says it is kind of the theme for today, but that just tells me you are being true to yourself and what you know. And you're doing it well, and your cats are healthy, and people just need to be educated. And I'm sorry you're on that don't adopt list.
So I wanted to ask about something.
Who is this?
Please say your name.
This is Kristen.
Hi, Kristen.
Hi, Rae. I think I met you a few years back at Summerfest.
Oh, great.
Anyway, and also I think you wrote the book that I somehow ended up with on like simple ideas for activism.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
A lot of my frustration lately is, and I was saying this in the chat box, I feel like I have to like clone myself. There's so much I want to do, and it's so difficult to focus and like find a niche and like build upon it. Like, there's all this stuff I want to do, and I'm like very socially isolated. So like, I feel like I need a team of people, but I don't have people. So, there's like the day-to-day activism, like, educating people you come across and stuff. But there's like so many things I want to do that sometimes I feel like I'm just spinning my wheels and not accomplishing a fraction of what I want to be. So how do you manage that? How do you, get like things jump started and start, establishing all these like grand ideas? Like I have so many things I want to accomplish.
I think I'm like you. I have my list of what I want to do on the planet is massive. And I've had to find this balance place of, once again, I am just one person. And what can I do and do really well? And to prioritize it. What's my number one priority? And that's what's my number two priority. And I'm not always good at it. There are things that have been on my back burner long enough that they're probably fermented by now. It's very, very hard, because what we do is we look out and if you look at how much has to be done in the world for the environment, for other species, the works, it is overwhelming. And then to balance out, I want to do that. I want to help all these beings in every part of the world. And, what about me? What takes care of me? When is there time to meditate, do yoga, go for a hike? So it's really important that we find that balance and let go of the fact that we can do everything. You just can't do what you can do really well. And you will do it better if you focus in on that rather than getting distracted by a million things. I mean, all you have to do is go on Facebook. You could spend the whole day there, doing like sign this petition, do whatever, share this, share that, write this letter to a representative. It's constant. So really hone it in on what you do best, what your passion is, and don't let yourself be distracted. It's very hard. Because you feel like, if I just sign this one petition, I can't turn my back on this petition.
It's a rabbit hole.
But then totally a rabbit hole. And it'll make you less effective, and it's better to just like bring it in, focus a little bit, and do it really well, and you'll feel satisfied. And you have to give yourself permission to not do everything. The folks who, Michael Budke and Karen, who run SANE, the group that works, you probably know about them. They work on anti-vivisection issues. And they've had to say no to every other issue and just focus in, pinpoint, focus in on that, and say no to everything else. And it's been hard for them, but they've been able to do it. And if you can't do it, if people aren't able to do that, to say no to doing everything, you will be burned out so fast because it's a big world with a whole lot going on that needs attention. And you can't be that person who gives attention to it all. You just can't. So just do it well. And, you know, you can think about it this way, like on your deathbed, you can probably already, with what you've done so far, you'll be able to say you made the lives of a lot of beings a whole lot better, and probably thousands of beings. So you have to be really satisfied with that. And it helps if you can do this. If you can sometimes look back and celebrate the victories in this movement. Look at how far we've come. It's pretty amazing how far we've come. Don't always look at how far we have to go. Sometimes look at how far we've come. And then you personally, don't always look at all this like, I could be doing this, and this. Sometimes just celebrate. Oh, wow, I've done this, and this, or I'm currently doing this. Go easier on yourself because you won't last long otherwise, and we don't want to lose you.
Thank you, Rae, and thanks, Kristen, for your question. I think Christine has a question as well. She has little hands up there. So, Christine, if you're available.
That's what that little hand is? I thought it meant stop, but her hand is up. I love that.
Yes.
Oh, hi.
So,
Thanks.
Hi, Christine.
Hi, Lisa. Hi, Rae.
Hi, Christine.
Hi. I know. I don't know how rushed things are, but I just wanted to try and ask you real quick before the end. I don't know if you have any sort of quick words for wisdom as far as for you personally, like what helps you keep your hope up, after being in this for 60 years, what helps you to keep going and keep your hope up at those points, the low points, is there anything particular that you found that is really effective for you?
Yeah, for sure. There are things that I have to, I wouldn't say I'm a hopeful person. I'm not really that kind of person. I'm not like the person who thinks, oh yes, the humans are going to turn this around and the earth is going to be saved and we're not going to take down billions of animals with us. I'm not that person. But the way that I can stay balanced and stay loving, I have some tools that work for me. I'm not saying that they would work for everyone. Meditation has been incredibly helpful for me because it reminds me of that a lot of what I get upset about is not necessarily reality. It's when I'm meditating, I get it. Like, oh, the world's just a bunch of subatomic particles bumping into each other. Like, I get it, when I'm doing that. I dance a lot. Every chance I get, I dance. So I try to do the really joyful things. I also spend as much time as possible in the non-human world. Hiking, boating, whatever it is, because being with those beautiful parts of the non-human world, it feeds me. And so I think it's very hard to do. It's very hard to say, oh my God, when there's all these beings suffering in all these places, do I have a right to go dancing as much as I do? It seems frivolous. I should be working on this 24/7. I shouldn't be dancing, hiking, laughing, having too good a time. And it's actually quite the opposite. It makes us so much more effective when we're physically, mentally, and spiritually healthy. Then we're helping those animals more. But it can be hard to give ourselves permission to do that. But those tools, without them, not only would I not be doing any activism anymore, I don't even know if I'd be on the planet anymore. Despair can take you over in a big way. And that's where I would be if I didn't have these tools and this balance.
So I'm hearing that self-care is a really crucial ingredient to your success as an activist. Yeah, that's so important. And I think, hopefully, Christine, that kind of addressed the question is about the importance of self-care.
Yeah. I just like to, when I've run into other people in this business, quote unquote, and they've managed to stay sane and not burn out or burn out and recover. I just like to find out what, individually works for different people, and that's, thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much for that question. And I'm looking at Mary's, and Mary, I get it. Here's what she says. When she's out in nature, that she thinks about all the work to be done to protect that nature. So it's even when she's out there, she's thinking about, oh my God, this needs our help. And I have the same. I mean, it depends where I am, but we go every winter, we go snorkeling because I love to be with my beautiful underwater family while there's still a few of them left. And I go between this absolute bliss of being surrounded by them because they're just such incredible beings, this family under the water. I go between that and crying out of gratitude that I get to be with them, and crying that I know that they're declining and watching them decline. I've watched it just go downhill. And so I kind of cry both ways, gratitude for being with them, but also I feel like I'm saying goodbye. And so I totally understand that. I mean, in a way, I feel like that is where we're at right now, that we have to find a beautiful way to say goodbye on the planet as we know it. So it's a mix. I totally agree with you, Mary, and I understand it. It's a mix of, I love this place, and oh my God, how did we inherit such a beautiful planet and not treat it as like the biggest treasure in the world? Like, it's such a treasure.
Thanks, Rae, and thanks, Christine. I'm gonna, after people speak, I'll probably mute you just so we don't have the feedback, but it's nothing personal. And, these are the realities of, being an activist. We're talking about real life, ourselves uplifted, but we also have to be, this is the reality too of what's happening. There are things that are sad, but there's also a balance between those things. So when we get overwhelmed, and I think part of it is noticing inside of ourselves, where are we on that continuum of that feeling of balance? If we're feeling really down and just not able to sometimes move forward because of it, then that's a time to bring in some of those self-care tools and say, okay, after I do this, what is it that I can do to help me? I'm going to connect with other vegan friends. One nice thing about having vegans is that when you're around other people who are vegan, suddenly it seems like the world is mostly vegan. That's what I've noticed.
Yeah, it's great.
And it does have that appearance. And then sometimes going out into the world, if I go traveling, I'll realize, wow, there aren't as many vegans as I thought there were in that community. So I think taking time to go in and out is key. Just like you go in and out of the water, Rae, with your underwater family. It's like, here you are, you have both experiences. Like, here's the vegan tribe and here's the non-vegan tribe, and finding a balance of kind of being the light and the educator in the non-vegan tribe, and also just sharing fun times and sharing sad times and really connecting with those in the vegan tribe so you can get that level of support.
Yeah, absolutely. It's like, my sister, I just saw my sister who is also vegan animal rights, but doesn't have people around her like that. And she said to me, do you have any non-vegan friends? And I had to really think about it. Like, we do. We have some, but for the most part, we are surrounded by vegans. So we do get this sort of feeling like, oh my God, the whole world is vegan. But it's such a nice break, to like spend time with our friends and our community who get it. We don't have to explain who we are. And I think it's really healing.
Yeah, and that's one of the reasons why actually, like next week, speaking of healing and speaking of vegan solidarity, we're going to have our vegan spirituality online gathering for those people who, like who aren't near a local group. They can join in online to our vegan family. And we're so fortunate to be to have a woman who's a light worker coming to join us next week. Her name is Tracy Lynn, and she's going to do an activist deep healing for us. So if you feel like you need some healing, please join us the next week at the same time, and we'll get to experience. So she's put this together specifically for our group. So I hope you can join us on that. And we also have an activist support group where if we didn't get to answer all the questions today, we'll continue the conversation in our activist support group, which is really a more opportunity for us to talk to amongst each other and together. And that will be happening on August 25th. So in a couple of weeks, we'll continue the real life challenges talk about what's going on there. So I just wanted to let you know about these resources that we have. And even I saw in the chat box, somebody mentioned our animal activist helpline, which is if you're having a bad day and we don't happen to be having a webinar that day, please call the helpline. It's a great opportunity to have one-on-one contact with somebody who really gets it. And we have some fabulous counselors that are working with us who are also activists and who do understand. So I'll give that number. It's 1-800-705-0425. So just wanted to take a moment to really thank everybody for participating tonight. We're getting really close to it. We're a little bit over the end of our timing, but it's just such a joy to be here with Rae. That
all of us.
Yeah, to be all together. And thanks to Victor. He's been also active in the chat box. I just wanted to reach out. I know he's been connecting with Rae, and we're just thrilled to have you as part of our group today too.
So great.
Yeah. So do you have any final things you'd like to share with us, Rae, before we?
I think, that I'm just thinking about everyone who's here. And I know that sometimes knowing what we know, being aware of the more difficult parts on the planet can feel like a burden. And I used to kind of feel like that, like, oh, I wish I didn't know this. It's such a burden. And I don't think that anymore. And I think it's really an honor. It's an honor that our awareness was opened up enough that in some way we were chosen to be the translators for this other world. We're translating to the humans from a world of other species, the environment, and it's an honor. And I'm just so grateful for all of you who are involved in this. And don't think of it as a burden at all. I know sometimes it feels like it, but there's a reason that you were chosen and that your mind and your heart is that open, and you have what it takes to do this, to be this loving voice in the world.
Thank you so much, Rae. That really felt like a blessing, and I hope that everyone who's together on this, call on our webinar tonight is really just feeling that blessing, that we are here on this planet at this time for a reason, and
Absolutely.
that we have this special gift of empathy and compassion.
Sure. Yeah. Thank you so much, everyone. I'm so grateful to all of you. Lisa, thank you for organizing all this. It's been great.
Yay. Well, it's a real treat to have this time with you today, Rae, and with everyone who's participating. And I hope that you'll join us next month as well. We meet on the first Thursday of every month. We have our Sustainable Activism webinars. And I think our next month is going to be Teresa Wagner, who has developed a program. She's an animal communicator, and she's vegan. She's also developed a program to help people who help animals. And I'd like to bring her on board. She's going to talk a bit about compassion fatigue and some other things. So it'll be nice. So we hope you can all join us. And meanwhile, just remember the theme of the evening, which is to stay true to yourself. Stay true to yourself.
And I'm adding my email because someone just asked how to get in touch with me. So I'm adding that below.
Oh, thank you so much, Rae. Now, just so you know, I always send a follow-up email after our meeting, and then I'll also include the chat box notes, and then you can always watch a replay of this a little bit later on the IDA YouTube channel, or you can find it on our website as well, which is the idausa.org. Let's see, and then it's under the events page, and that way you can check out all the other webinars as well. We had a really popular one by Rae as well. So our despair repair was one that she did. So, and I think I'd like to end with a little quote from you, Rae, if you don't mind. I think this would be kind of fun. So Rae made a comment about the Guardian campaign that was from Elliot Katz, who's the president emeritus of In Defense of Animals, and he has put together this campaign to really look at how animals are treated, and also just the vocabulary that we use when we're speaking about animals. So, Elliot, it's really an international effort to encourage greater levels of respect, responsibility, and compassion for their fellow beings, who we share our lives and planet with. And so to really look at reframing the way we talk about animals, instead of being their owners, more their guardians, because they deserve to be treated as the sensible, responsible, and caring individuals that they are. So that's the program. And sorry, I'm going back for a second. I'm going to get this quote together. There we go. So, see. Well, sorry, my computer's working very slowly right now, so I'm having, because we're doing the webinar, everything's a little bit slower, but I've got it. And let's see here. Rae Sikora. Yes. So, in honor of Rae, I'm going to use to other living beings as property, as things, and as it, we give ourselves permission as humans to disregard their needs and wants and quality of life. The Guardian Initiative is a wonderful step towards respecting and caring for all life. The Center for Compassionate Living is in full support of the Guardian Initiative. So that is something you may remember, Rae, from saying to Elliot at some point. So thanks to everyone for your patience as I celebrated one of the quotes from Rae, and we hope to see you again either next week, the week after, or hopefully in the next month.
Beautiful. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Lisa.
Have a wonderful evening, everyone.
Bye, everybody.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.